But we'll call it the meeting. Okay. All right, Clerk Segers, can you please take roll call? This is a regular board meeting. We'll start with the study session, though.
All right. Supervisor Graham Hudek.
Here, good evening.
Let the record reflect that Clerk Segrist is in attendance. Treasurer Slavens.
Good evening.
Trustee Borninski.
Good evening.
Trustee Ganguly.
Good evening.
Foster.
Good evening.
And Trustee Ansari.
Good evening.
Thank you. Can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? We're going to do this twice. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to do that again also, just for practice.
We're doing two.
So we're going to start with the study session. And the study session is going to be on the Liberty Festival. And that's going to be run by John Lefevre. So to move on to the regular board meeting, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Ganguly. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. So first, we have a presentation recognition formal resolution from our CERT team. I'll just read. The Township Board would like to extend its sincere appreciation to our dedicated volunteers who completed the Canton radio coverage mapping project. These individuals generously gave their own time and resources to conduct detailed radio signal tests across 900 sections of the township. Through their efforts, they collected valuable data and recorded signal strength throughout the community. The result is a comprehensive map displaying the varying levels of radio coverage across the township. This map provides us with an important tool to guide further discussions with the Michigan Public Safety Communication Systems. With this information, we can better identify areas that may require additional coverage and explore options to enhance public safety communications for our first responders. In recognition of their exceptional service and contribution to community safety, they will be receiving a Civilian Commendation Award. Their dedication and teamwork exemplify the spirit. I know, is it working? Doesn't sound like it. Exemplify the spirit.
Test.
Yeah. Thanks. In recognition, none of these seem to be working. Of their exceptional service and contribution, they will be receiving a Civilian Commendation Award. Their dedication and teamwork exemplify the spirit of services that strengthen our township and supports our mission to protect and serve our residents. I don't know what's going on. Mics aren't working. On behalf of the Canton Township Board, thank you for outstanding contribution to our community. So I'd like to call up CERT Manager Nick Hayes, Keith Armitage, Tony Griffin, Michael Hammerberg, Linda's not here. There we go. Okay.
It was me.
It was you. Linda Schremsher, you sat on a button. David Smick and GIS Administrator David Bannock. Please come up to the front to receive your recognition. And then Nick, I believe you're going to say a few words.
Yes, thank you very much. Tonight I'm accepting the board recognition of this evening on behalf of the CERT ham radio team, as we were unable to find a date that the team could all be present here tonight. The team regularly meets on Tuesday evenings to support ham radio network testing throughout Wayne County and the Region 2 South. So I would like to also recognize and thank the team for their service to our community and thank this board for recognizing the diligent efforts for the dedicated team tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Chris, would you like to say something? Then we'll take. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to add, I mean, this was a heavy lift, and this made a big difference for both police and fire. And without their work and getting out there, the township would have to pay a tremendous amount of money to test these systems throughout the township. So they saved us a ton of money, they put in a ton of work, and their work will pay off as we move through the township and update our radio system to make sure that we have coverage everywhere we need to be.
Thank you very much. Come to the front. We're going to take a picture. We'll stand behind you. You guys can have to leave.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Just kick on.
Thank you, Victor. Thanks. Good job. Congratulations. Now the microphones are working. Thanks. Okay, so we don't have any public hearings. Any board or commission reports? Any commission report outs from anyone? Okay.
The yak team.
Okay, want to give a report out? Sure, yes. Did you see these questions?
Our most recent meeting was Monday, February 2nd. As a reminder, YAC's project this year are the revamped Youth Needs Assessment, the Youth Driven Space Conference, our YSC grant to youth programming, and a pickleball fundraiser to grow our endowment and increase our footprint in the community.
At this meeting, we reviewed and finalized our grant application documents, which are ready to be sent out, and these will be due on March 27th, and we will review them at our April YAC meeting.
We also finalized our Youth Needs Assessment. Our focus has been on increasing accessibility. The Youth Needs Assessment this year only takes 1 to 3 minutes to complete while still maintaining the vitality of the original. Our goal is to engage at least 300 youth in the community.
Next, we established a goal of increasing YAC's engagement with other boards and commissions in Canton, and having ongoing discussions regarding with regards to which commissions we hope to get youth seats in the future.
Finally, this year, YAC will be attending and presenting at the annual Youth Driven Space Conference. This year's theme is community. At our meeting last week, we finalized our topic for our breakout session: how to be an impactful member in any leadership group you are part of.
And those are our updates for right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, next we will have public comment on agenda items only. Public comment on agenda items only. Please go up to the podium.
My name is Anthony, and this is a comment in regards to the fireworks schedule. Any reason it can't be on like Friday, July 10th or Saturday, July 11th? Because, you know, Thursday is a work night for most people, and a Friday night or even Saturday night would probably be the best, but at least Friday night.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, we can take that into consideration. Thank you. Any other public comments on agenda items?
Madam Supervisor, I did notice the YAC team had provided a couple of questions in advance. One of them is for agenda item number 10, and it asks about a facility. I'm wondering if that's for the pump station, which is on the consent calendar, because the general calendar is the Liberty Fest RBA. So if we were going to address that question, we would probably need to do it now, because we're going to approve the consent calendar as one item, and there's no discussion on that issue. Is that the questions that were provided in advance? Is that about the pump station on Lots Road?
The consent calendar?
Okay. Yeah, typically those lift stations are to assist with stormwater, so it would have the opposite of a negative impact to the area. It would help with stormwater, with flooding and things like that.
Do any of them?
Everything else is a general calendar item.
Okay,
I was like, that's not Liberty Fest.
okay,
Okay.
all right. All right, can I have a motion to approve the minutes for January 13th and January 20th, 2026?
So moved.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Borninski. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. All right, and then we will now do a treasurer's report. Payment of bills.
Madam Supervisor, I motion that we pay the bills.
Support.
Motion made by Treasurer Slavin, supported by Trustee Ganguly. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Okay, the consent calendar.
Madam Supervisor, I move that the board adopt the consent calendar as presented. Item C1, request approval for security systems replacement. C2, request for a resolution of local body of government to recognize Town Elementary School Parent-Teacher Organization as a nonprofit in the community for the purposes of making an application for the charitable gaming license to the Michigan Gaming Control Board. C3, request to purchase annual computer replacements. C4, request approval to pay for BSNA accounts payable module. C5, consider approving a proposal and purchase order for Fellows Creek Golf Course Bridge rehab and replacements. C6, consider extending the scope of work for Fishbeck, Thompson, Carr, and Huber, I don't know, Incorporated to perform wetland monitoring with an amendment to the 2026 fire budget. C7, consider awarding blanket purchase orders to the 5 pre-qualified consulting firms per engineering services master service agreement. I got lost. 8, consider approval of the purchase of 2 2026 Ford F-250s for Public Works. C9, consider approval of the purchase of 1 2026 Ford F-150 hybrid and 1 2026 Ford Transit 350 cargo van fleet services. 10, issue a purchase order to Wade Trim for professional services to perform the construction inspection of the Lots Road Sewer Pump Station Facility installation. C11, consider second reading and adoption of amendment to Appendix A zoning of the Code of Ordinances for religious land uses and related standards. 12, consider purchase order for Crimboli Nursery Incorporated for tree planting services. 13, consider approval of professional services agreement for mixed-use node zoning district amendment consulting services. And finally, C14, consider approval of a purchase order to Reliable Landscaping Incorporated for mowing and lawn services.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Foster. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. All right, now we move on to the general calendar, G1. Let's see. Go ahead. Approval of 2 Braun ambulances.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the purchase of 2 Braun Chief XL ambulances from McQueen in the amount of $770,818 and the necessary budget amendment to the 2026 fire budget.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Brunzinski. The Fire Department is requesting approval to purchase 2 Braun Chief XL ambulances from McQueen, the authorized distributor of Braun ambulances in Michigan. The department has selected Braun, utilizing a low bid price secured by HGAC, Houston Galveston Area Council, in the amount of $770,818. The department is also requesting an amendment to the 2026 fire budget for this purchase. Director Stockline, do you want to add anything?
This will just bring our fleet up to all Braun ambulances. And so in the future, it helps fleet out one style of ambulance to order parts for and get those parts in and get trained up on. As well as that, we know that our ambulances are front run. They're our bread and butter. They're the ones that are doing the majority of the work. So that was the idea of pushing our tanker back a few years and setting that aside. Right now, it's in great shape. And with discussion with fleet, we know that that'll last a few more years, and we don't have to really worry about replacing it right now. There's just a few spots in the township that runs to, which would be the expressway, and a couple spots up in the north end of the township without water. And as DPW continues to expand our water service to the rest of the community, that vehicle will be less and less needed. So I think this is a great purchase right now, and pushing that other purchase off for now.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments? No. All in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G2, consider a request to waive the bidding process and award contract to Suburban Calcium Chloride Sales.
Madam Supervisor, I move to award a contract and purchase order to Suburban Calcium Chloride Sales to provide Canton's 2026 dust control program on local gravel roads for an amount not to exceed $21,000.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. Fugitive dust from unpaved surface roads can be significant and a nuisance to those who live adjacent to them. In the past, Canton Township has agreed to fund the cost of dust control for 7 miles of local gravel roads, not part of the Wayne County DPS dust control program. Suburban Oil Company has agreed to hold its 2023 bid pricing of 30 cents per gallon for the 2026 season. The 2026 dust control program will include 3 applications. Based on the low bidders' pricing, 3 applications will cost $18,900. Additionally, based upon the recent experience, the Public Works Division is requesting additional funds to address emergency applications of calcium chloride due to weather conditions such as an extended drought. Director Norwood, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I don't have anything to add, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions? The board? All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. G3, consider waiving the bidding process and purchase for 2026 Caterpillar compact track loader.
Madam Supervisor, I move to award a purchase order to Michigan Cat for the purchase of a new 2025 Caterpillar 239D3-TL compact track loader in the amount of $45,784.10.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Borninski. Our Public Works staff operates and maintains the township's 460 miles of water main, 360 miles of sanitary sewer, multiple hydrants, valves, and other appurtenances. In order to provide the necessary level of service, various sizes of construction equipment are necessary. As the township continues to build out, this compact track loader will allow for more efficient and effective operations. The new 2026 CAT compact track loader model 239D3TL is to be purchased from Michigan Cat, a sole source provider in Michigan Cat using Sourcewell contract number as listed. Public Works is moving to an all-CAT equipment due to its excellent quality, and DPW operators and mechanics are familiar with CAT products. Director Norwood, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I don't have anything else to add, but happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments? All right, all in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G4, consider waiving the bidding process and approving the purchase of water meters and metering control devices from Aetna Supply.
Madam Supervisor, I move to accept the quote from Aetna Supply Company and approve a purchase order not to exceed $150,000 to purchase the necessary water meter equipment and supplies and waive the finance purchasing policy requiring formal bids as these items are supplied under a sole source contract through the Aetna Supply Company.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Borninski. To supply and maintain water services for residential and commercial accounts, the Public Works Division maintains an inventory of supplies. This inventory is replenished yearly to meet projections for the upcoming year. Equipment such as water meters and radio head receivers are installed for new projects and also replaced as equipment wears out. The Public Works Division continues an ongoing replacement program for older meters and MUX devices. The ongoing program allows for older, less accurate devices to be replaced with new accurate devices that provide less water loss in our system. Canton's 27,000-plus active water accounts are now all equipped with radio read devices, which allow a streamlined, less labor-intensive collection of meter data. In the past, Canton has purchased from Aetna Supply Company, a sole source supplier of census meters and equipment. For this reason, we are requesting a waiver of the purchase policy requirements to solicit bids. The total value of the inventory required for 2026 is $150,000. Director Norwood, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I know there are some questions from the YAC about these meters. These are not for the schools. These are for new builds and some replacing some old meters or meters that have failed. We do anticipate a program later on this spring about replacing meters, and then we may be looking at the schools to replace some of their.
Does the YAC team have any other questions about that or comments? No? Anyone from the board? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. G5. That's right, yes. Consider Camp Mirage at Friendship Church special land use application.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve resolution number 2026-9 to approve the special land use for a child care center / day camp in planning application number PZ 25-00006.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Slavens. Treasurer Slavens, I'm sorry, but we're all trustees.
There you go.
The applicant proposes to establish a Camp Mirage, a day camp, at Friendship Church at 1240 North Beck Road, located on the east side of Beck Road and north of Salts Road, based on the scope of the day camp use. It is classified as a child care center use and regulated under Section 6.03E of the zoning ordinance. The site is zoned R3, single-family residential, and child care uses are special land uses in the R3 zoning district. The subject parcel is 5.73 acres and includes Friendship Church, which is an approved site plan and special land use for the religious institution use. The day camp operated in the summer of 2025. Planning Division staff became aware of the day camp after it ended for the season in August. The applicant intends to operate the day camp in accordance with the previously approved site plan, and the day camp use is proposed to take place between June 15th through August 21st for 10 weeks, between the hours of 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. At its meeting on January 5th, 2026, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the special land use subject to conditions. Director Norwood, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I don't have anything to add, but Patrick Sloan, Committee Planner, is also here to answer any questions.
Thanks. Patrick, do you have anything?
Just a short ad. Earlier today, I emailed the Board of Trustees regarding some correspondence from a neighboring resident regarding the use, as well as some correspondence between Planning Division staff and the applicant. So beyond that, I have nothing else to add, but happy to answer any questions. And project representatives are also in the audience this evening to answer any questions as well.
Thank you. Summer, do you have anything to add from the Planning Commission?
Nothing beyond what's in the Planning Commission minutes. Thank you.
Okay, the YAC team, do you have anything? Any questions? All right. Does the board have any questions or comments? Kate?
Yeah, just to clarify, the requirement for the snow fence is because of what?
In the zoning ordinance for daycare uses, it requires the outdoor activity and recreation areas to be fenced. And in the case of a day camp, which is similar in nature to a daycare, we think that maintaining the fencing requirement is important for maintaining the boundary at the 25-foot setback lines. And because of the temporary nature of the use taking place during the summer, we feel that the temporary type of fencing is appropriate where it can be taken down when the use is not operable.
Okay, and I would imagine it's important for safety as well.
Well, from a staff standpoint, having delineated areas within the day camp area, if perhaps for safety, but also just indicating boundaries for kids that are at the camp, as well as anyone who's on the property or any of the neighbors that may see the activities. They'll see that there's a boundary there in terms of the outdoor activity areas.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to ask, is it within the purview of the board to waive the requirement for the snow fence? I know that the resident had indicated that they actually did not like the snow fence. They thought it would be a visual it would be visually unappealing. I also, in my mind, just I understand the technical reason why we have the standard for having a fence. I think there's a reason there's a fence around a pool, because it keeps kids from going into the pool. Putting a snow fence around a pool does not keep anybody from going into a pool. It would visually be a fence. That's true, but it would not actually stop anyone from doing anything. So do we have the ability, if we wanted to waive that standard? I guess would be my question. I don't want to be like arbitrary about this. But I did think, the resident had concerns about the noise and I lived next to a school, so like I'm not overly sympathetic to that, to be quite honest. I actually like the sound of children enjoying themselves, but I will tell you, I was like, well, I could see where having like an orange fence in my backyard and having to listen to the noise might be like insult to injury.
Yeah, and that comment from the neighboring resident in terms of what they'd be able to see, in terms of where we recommend the fencing being, I'm not sure how visible that would be from their backyard because the proposed fence would be adjacent to some existing evergreen screening. So I'm not sure how visible that would be from the neighbor's yard. Also with the fencing, it would also help if there's basketball or soccer or some sport or game where it would contain a ball or something else that may roll off the property or someplace else.
And you said that there's an evergreen screen?
Yeah, the south side of the site, a good portion of it has evergreen screening that was installed when the church was originally constructed. And so those evergreens have had a number of years to grow. And looking at aerials, they've grown in pretty thick.
Would they stop a ball?
I haven't been on the site to see, but good chance they would, especially if it's bermed.
Yeah.
At least going southward. Going eastward, where there's no trees, it's hard to tell.
Tanya? Sorry, were you done, Michael?
Well, I just was listening for the answer to my question.
Oh, I'm
about
sorry.
Whether or not the board could
second.
reasonably vote to not require the fencing.
I mean, Patrick, is it a requirement for all our daycares or?
I mean, I don't want to get in the situation where we start we would open ourselves up to potential litigation from other individuals who say that we're arbitrarily enforcing standards and, but at the same point in time, I don't want to be I'm going to be careful that we don't worship rules too much.
Yeah, because we were using the standards of the child care center because of the outdoor activity areas, and the ordinance requires, it states that the outdoor play areas shall be suitably fenced and screened from abutting residentially zoned and used property. And we've had one case probably a few years ago where there was an in-home daycare where they were permitted to have a temporary fence just because of, the times where they would have kids out there. It would be short in nature, and I think maybe their HOA had some prohibitions on fences, so they had a temporary type of barrier that they were allowed to do, which at that time would have qualified as a fence based on the temporary nature of that use.
So you're saying the ZBA would be the appropriate venue to address the fence issue if they wanted to?
That may be the best option, just because it's in the zoning ordinance, so there would be relief proposed from a certain section of the ordinance. In terms of the fence itself, I know that there are types that come in different colors and styles, so there may be some, maybe more aesthetic and creative ways to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Tanya?
She raised her hand first. Go ahead.
Oh, who did?
Yeah. How tall is the fence?
I think 3 to 4 feet
3 to 4 feet.
on my part.
Will that help with the, because my house borders, as Michael said, his house bordered a school. My house borders a swim club, and they have 8-inch, probably 8 feet fences, and the ball still comes through the, the green, the pine trees and all. So that's, I think that would not really deter people, the balls to come through. And sometimes it is a little bit of an annoyance for people, especially in the afternoons if they're in their backyards and stuff. But didn't you say the fences will be temporary? They'll be removed after the daycare, after the camp is over?
Yeah, I don't know if it's something that would be rolled up every day, but I think by the end of the season,
The end of
it's
this,
something that would be,
so it's like for 2.5.
the type of fencing, just the vinyl flexible fence that comes in a roll.
Okay.
Did you have a comment, Summer?
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, so I heard, Patrick, I think you said that there could be different colors and things like that for the fence. Yeah, I'm wondering if it has to be a snow fence.
Not necessarily. The ordinance just states fenced, so if there are creative ways to have a similar effect of a fence, certainly a structured fence that would cost several thousands of dollars, probably not appropriate and not
Right.
they'd want to make. But if there are anything that has a similar effect, that could be classified as fence in terms of creating a barrier.
Yeah.
We could-
I mean, I've seen interlocking ones at like Home Depot and places like that. Just curious because I know snow fencing is not real attractive. But also want to make sure that we are enforcing our ordinance if we're also enforcing it for other providers.
Anyone else? Summer, I mean, that seems like the discussions that went on also at the Planning Commission.
Yes, planning commissioners brought that up. And, you know, my perspective on it is we have it written in the ordinance for a good reason. And if we want to make changes, we should change our ordinance
There you go.
instead of arbitrarily providing exceptions.
Yeah. That's a good point. I wonder though, yeah, if for like temporary uses, if there's some potential language we could put into the ordinance that might take some of our permanent standards and not apply them to 7 or 10 week uses, but that's a different discussion. That's a good
Diane,
point.
did you have something? Oh, sorry. That's true. So I guess at this point then, I mean, we do have an ordinance and you can go to the ZBA for variances. Okay. Did anyone have any other questions or comments?
Call the vote. Applicant.
Yeah, usually, yeah, if you're the applicant, if you want to make a statement, that's fine.
Our apologies. At the commission meeting, we spoke after the topic came up, so I apologize that we didn't stand forward. A couple of things real quick. The conversation, thank you. My name is Jill Engel, and I am the Director of Development for Camp Mirage. Just to clarify, we are not a child care center. We are a summer day camp, and there is no ordinance actually for a summer day camp. So that's where this kind of is a little confusing because of the ordinances that are put into place. The other thing that we have been working with the Planning Commission for 4 months now to be able to come to an agreement to be able to have this done. So I'm with one of the owners tonight, and they've been working diligently to be able to get this done and work with the Planning Commission. And after the last commission meeting, it was pushed forward, and we did open registration for our camp. And we have 107 orders placed so far for our summer camp. But one of the things on this, there was another change made to the recommendations after the Planning Commission. This change was given to the owners the end of January, and the Planning Commission stated it was a recommendation, not a requirement. But when we looked up the agenda for tonight, it was in the map of the fencing from the end of January, was in the motion and resolution for tonight. And we weren't sure why it was in there because it was not something that was agreed on yet. And it was a recommendation. It was not a requirement.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Marie Mincher. co-owner of Camp Mirage Canton. Thank you again for your time and review of our application. I just wanted to point out that, again, after receiving that conditional approval from the Planning Commission, we resubmitted and revised a plan that reflected and met the required setbacks from all existing property lines. And as submitted, we believe that plan reflected those. The sport activity areas are located away from neighboring properties. We've addressed noise concerns by prohibiting amplification and limiting operational hours and times. But that snow fencing described in front of you tonight in condition number 1 would block required access for our dumpster for our daily waste removal and restrict access to the garage building where a lot of our safety and operational equipment is stored. So we take into account too the neighbor's comment about the fence blight and believe that this could be worked out again administratively and addressed maybe through signage and management. Just adding in that extra piece there could also interfere with our state of Michigan summer day camp licensing requirements that we have to that are related to supervision, our outdoor space, and any emergency access. So I would just ask respectfully that you keep those in mind tonight. And Mr. Segrist, I believe you brought that up about if that would be something. And just any kind of, I guess we would ask to allow any reasonable flexibility in implementation or to possibly remove the fencing requirement so that it doesn't exceed what is necessary for us to run a safe licensed operation. Thank you again.
So this kind of might go along, though, with, because this would still fall under, even though it's a day camp, it would still fall under daycare, right? Because even if it's temporary, I don't think our ordinance specifies that. Is that correct?
But, sorry,
Patrick, wait just a second, Amara. Patrick, is that true?
It classifies a child care center, and with a day camp, the ordinance doesn't specifically address or define what a day camp is. So when there are uses like that, we look at what's the most similar use. And whenever there's a use most similar to something that isn't specifically defined in the zoning ordinance, the most similar use regulations apply. So in this case, even though it's temporary in nature for the summer months, the use is generally the same, where you have kids dropped off from offsite, large in number, using the outdoor areas for play, just like a daycare center would be. So in some areas, because of the temporary nature of the use, we're not asking for a permanent fence. We're looking at something that creates a barrier around the outdoor play area. And the plans that are in the packet that are published show where the applicant had proposed putting in snow fencing. In some areas on the south side and the west, there's not snow fencing because there's a defined curb there and there's vegetative screening. So in some areas, we don't recommend the fencing just because there's a defined curb, and outside the curb, it doesn't make sense to do it. But on the north side, where they do show it, we agree of enclosing those areas with the snow fencing. And then I think the difference between the plans that are in the packet that were submitted by the applicant and the staff recommendation, I think really what we're down to is maybe a 70 linear foot area between the dumpster and then going southwest to where the proposed snow fence terminates. And whether it is on the west side of the dumpster or the other side of the dumpster to allow access, I think we're pretty open to trying to get some kind of a barrier so they can get the appropriate trash pickup.
Okay. Amara, did you have something?
I'm a little confused on the language now. I appreciate you bringing it up. So in the actual RBA, we have it listed as, now I have to look back, a day camp, and then it says something else later. A child care center and day camp. Is there a difference in terms of licensing, operations, et cetera, and does that mean this RBA needs to be changed, is my question. I just don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Well, and I would propose, if I may, the same, I would like to ask Director LaFever, because I know that the township operates day camps in the summertime, and I believe we do it in Heritage Park, and Heritage Park is not fenced in, so do we run our day camps like they are child care facilities? And if not, I mean, if we're talking about, because consistency is a really good principle, and I do believe we should adhere to consistency.
So our indoor camps are camps that are based at an indoor facility. So the Summit, Camp Canton out of the Summit, our Camp Able, our therapeutic programs are based indoors. So those are licensed day camps through the state of Michigan. The one outdoor program that we offer, which is our playground program, is not a licensed day camp program. So that's why it doesn't fall under the same guidelines. And that one, there's different criteria. It's a 3-hour program with a break, so it's not a full day. It doesn't meet the time requirements. There's several conditions.
So that one's,
That would be the only one that doesn't run, is not a licensed day camp situation.
okay.
Kate, you had something?
Yeah, I'm wondering if Deputy Supervisor Hoover could shed some light on this a little bit, if possible. I was at one point in my life involved with an overnight camp, which I believe the state sort of licensed similarly to a child care center. So I'm wondering if there's any state guidance on this?
Yes, but like our ordinance, it's not always clear what the difference between a child care center and a day camp is. As Director LaFever indicated, you can get licensing for day camps by the state of Michigan. And in order to get that licensing, there are a number of requirements you have to meet in terms of adults per children. With some camps, there are requirements that there's a healthcare professional the kids have access to. That's usually more for overnight camps. But yes, in general, day camps have similar, though not as stringent, requirements as child care facilities do.
Okay, thank you.
I actually have a definition here if you would like it from our owner. She says that the State of Michigan Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, which is LARA, defines a summer day camp as, quote, a location that provides care in a natural environment using trained leadership to promote mental, physical, and social growth.
Okay, let me see.
And in our ordinance, where this originally came from, in the definitions of our ordinance defines a child care center as a center other than a private home where one or more children are received for care and supervision. And that includes preschools and nurseries. So our zoning ordinance for zoning and local regulation is more of a broad definition for those. So rather than look at day camp and say, well, it's not listed in the ordinance, therefore it's prohibited, we look at the most similar use. In this case, it would be a child care center based on the definition.
So we haven't prohibited them from opening. I mean, this is just all in the fence that we seem to be having an issue, correct? In terms of,
I think that's the main thing that we're still working with. In terms of if they're taking reservations, we're not doing anything to stop a private transaction. Really, the question is whether the use is suitable for the property based on the nature of the use and the regulations.
so I'm looking at the motion to approve the special land use for a child care center day camp. Okay. But and what about the new plans that they said you received? Do you see any difference there, or?
The plans that the applicant have sent, those are in the board packet this evening that we received. Our response to the applicant is, and it was on a plan that we had emailed the board members earlier today, where we had highlighted on, in green on that line of the plan that we sent, where there's about 70 linear feet of additional snow fence that we recommend in the southeast corner of the site that would connect roughly the west side of the dumpster to that snow fence termination on the east end of the south side, just to kind of enclose that area. It could potentially be a little bit farther east to allow for trash pickup at that dumpster, but really the purpose there is to have an eastern boundary there so that there's no spillover onto the gravel area that's farther to the east. And in those gravel areas, south of that, there's no evergreen screening because when the original site plans were approved for the church, evergreen screening wasn't required there because there was nothing in that area. There has since been gravel placed there, and we're working with Friendship Church on a somewhat unrelated matter to try to get that area into compliance. And there will likely be a site plan proposed by Friendship Church in the future. But for the time being, for the day camp use, we had recommended having some kind of a barrier west of that gravel area to enclose the use so that there's no spillover into those gravel areas. And some of that comes from some comments that we got from some of the neighbors that live adjacent to that area along Salts Road, and some of the comments they had about some of the noise and activity over last summer. So in trying to work with the applicant to achieve compliance with this use, they've agreed to not use noise amplification devices, and we think that'll go a long way to addressing some of the neighbor concerns. And then some of the other things we had recommended with that eastern fenced boundary, that would provide at least a little bit of assurance that those areas would be enclosed west of. Therefore, if there's any inquiries or complaints from neighbors, then we have a plan that we can look at where there's an eastern boundary, and if there's no spillover east of that area, then it would otherwise be in compliance with that plan.
You're saying that they can move this fence so they could meet the requirement of trash pickup then, is that correct? What you're saying is, that's why you had a temporary a fence?
I think that that'd be reasonable, especially if the garbage pickup is at an irregular time and you need that area open. I'm sure we could work with the applicants and the owners to make sure that there's enough room for a truck to get in and out.
Okay. Michael?
I have a question. So I'm looking at Chapter 722 of the Michigan compiled laws, and it comes up with this definition, which MyLeap uses to register what they call child care organizations. That's the term of art that they use. And child care organizations do include children's camps, children's campsites. It also includes the term of art that we use in our ordinance, the child care center. So now I see, okay, both child camps and child care centers are child care organizations, but so are foster homes. So my question is, do we require foster homes to be fenced in Canton Township? Because they are a child care organization certified and registered by MyLeap, just like day camps, summer camps, and child care centers. And if we don't, then I see where potentially our parity or our equity component of treating everybody the same maybe becomes a little bit strained, and I could start seeing that we can differentiate between a foster home and a child care center and a daycare or a day camp and a child care center as well. And in that scenario, I would be comfortable not applying the fence standard that exists in the ordinance for child care centers to temporary children's camps. I don't know how anybody else feels.
So if we're going to argue semantics on that, I think there's also something about an in-home child care center not having the same requirements. And I would argue that a foster home is that. But I think we're getting away from what we're trying to do here.
Yep. Any questions? Summer, go ahead.
I mean, just a comment. I think what seems to make sense is if the board would allow this to go through, since they've already started signing up kids, we ensure that we keep some kind of barrier on the eastern border that allows, folks to pick up the dumpster and have the applicant work with the planning commission to determine exactly what that barrier is, whether it's a snow fence or some other kind of temporary barrier that makes sense.
And I think that the motion basically says that also. It's just to approve special land use. Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Okay. Thank you. All right. Next item is G7, consider approval to accept the out-of-school time, G6, I'm sorry, out-of-school time learning grant.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the required budget amendment and accept the out-of-school time learning grant of $87,420 to be used toward expanded recreational programming in 2026.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Brunensky. Okay, G6.
There's a question from, yeah.
Is there one? Okay. In the fall of 2025, Parks, Rec, and Community Services applied for the Michigan Department of Education's 2025 through 2026 out-of-school time learning grant. In December, Canton was notified that it was eligible to receive $87,420 in grant funding to expand out-of-school programs and services. Canton's recreation team will use these funds to continue several programs and services, including Teen Experience Camp, Junior Outdoor Explorers, Coffee and Beyond, Youth Services Squad, one-on-one therapy services, provide summer camp scholarships, and more. Parks, Recreation, and Community Services recommends accepting the out-of-school learning grant for $87,420. A budget amendment is necessary. Director LaFever, do you want to add anything?
Really just want to commend staff, and namely Chelsea Straub, for her efforts in going out and getting this grant. I believe it's our third year in a row, and especially the loss of some of our sponsorships in our youth programs. Receiving this grant is probably the main reason we'll be able to offer all of the programs listed there in the summary of the RBA. So kudos to Chelsea and her staff. Just, yeah, the way they go about doing this. These are phenomenal programs, which you'll all hear more about on March 17th in a study session. But so I'll save it for that. But they do a phenomenal job, and this was a huge win.
Great, thank you. Yes, I agree. It's a lot of money for the camps. Does our YAC team have any? I think you had some questions. Do you want to ask them?
Oh, yeah, we have two questions. So our first one is, how many additional students will be served specifically because of this funding beyond current participation levels, as well as how can you track this as well? And the second question we have is, how will families be informed about scholarships and new or expanding OST opportunities, especially those who may not already be engaged with PRCS programs?
Well, these guys are hard hitting me tonight. I got a preview of some of the questions. I had to dig deep on the grant one and the number served. Couldn't find a total number, but I saw the results with some of the surveys that they did from last year's program, and they had between 37 and 41 kids per week, and it ran for 26 over the course of 26 weeks and 100 days. So these were not just some short programs. This was half the year with a good number of kids each time that they ran a program 100 different times. So, I'm doing the math, that served over 3,000 or 4,000 different attendances, by kids. So pretty significant program. And as far as reaching out and we'll go through all of the different avenues. There were so many different programs listed there, so you can imagine there's a lot of different ways to reach kids for those individual programs. But of course, they're all offered through our block program. We have reach for each one of those. We have mailing list. Obviously, we'll put a lot of those programs in the Focus newsletter. All of our promotional avenues. We go social media. We have outreach programs that go specifically to identified neighborhoods for some of those programs that are specific to outreach. So we'll hit all the avenues that we can to get the word out.
Okay, thanks. Let me see. Okay, all right. Questions from the board? Comments? Well, congratulations. Congratulations, Chelsea. Thanks for the hard work.
We have two Chelseas, and they both work very hard.
Both of you work very hard. All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Okay, there's next one on RB7 also. G7, consider authorization of 2026 Specialized Services Operating Assistance Program Agreement with SMART.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the fiscal year 2026 Specialized Services Operating Assistance Agreement between SMART and the Charter Township of Canton for $89,723 and to authorize the Township Supervisor to sign the contract on behalf of the Township pending legal review.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. The Township submitted its annual Specialized Services application with SMART to provide funding for the Canton Mobility Transportation Program. SMART has notified the Township that it is eligible for $89,723 in program funding from October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2026. Parks, Recreation, and Community Services is requesting authorization to receive available funds for the Specialized Services Operating Assistance Program through an agreement with SMART pending legal review. Okay, let's see. Director Lefevre, do you want to add anything?
Always grateful to receive these funds from SMART. They help us offset the expense of working with our partners at Canton Transit, which Treasurer Slavens and I have the pleasure of serving on the commission. So this is great. This helps us offer great service and serve many, many seniors throughout the year, and individuals with disabilities, not just seniors.
Thank you. And you do have a question from our YAC team.
Yeah, we had two questions. How many individuals have benefited from this program in previous years? And are there opportunities for youth to participate in advisory roles or volunteer with the transportation program?
See, I told you they were challenging me. So as far as number of individuals served, we have over 15,000 rides served per year. So it's pretty significant. That's amongst 1,300 to 1,400 riders. Some folks ride 4 or 5 days a week, some, once a month or less. And then as far as involvement, maybe not specifically with this program, just because it's a third party that provides the service with us. We advise them on the service and follow up. However, there's plenty of opportunities in the name of transportation. I know we're firing up a Transportation Safety Action Plan Committee, potentially through that. And there's lots of efforts going into planning with the upcoming millage proposal. So it could certainly involve the Youth Advisory Council in some of those processes. I know with the Planning Division and the Master Plan process. So lots of opportunities, and we'll keep the YAC in mind for that.
All right. Questions or comments from the board? No. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G8. That's right. Consider approval of professional services for architecture, engineering, and construction administration services.
Madam Supervisor, I move to authorize the Township Supervisor to execute professional services agreements with each of the 5 consulting firms for architecture, engineering, and construction administration services, parks and recreation.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. The Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department issued an RFP for architecture, engineering, and construction administration services. The RFP included a variety of potential services such as park, facility, amenity design and engineering, environmental sustainability, mapping, master planning, bidding, and construction administration. In all, 27 proposals were submitted, all of which include many strengths. While some firms are large enough to provide most of the potential services listed in the RFP, others specialize in only a few. A panel reviewed each proposal, narrowing the list to the top 13. Each of the 13 companies was then interviewed and scored based on a variety of factors, including fees and services offered. The final scoring resulted in a top 5 of significant firms, including A3C Collaborative Architecture, Fishbeck MCSA Group Incorporated, OHM Advisors, and Spalding DeDecker Associates. Canton has experience with each of these companies and feels confident in receiving exceptional service and quality from each of them. If approved, Canton will seek separate quotes or proposals from awarded contractors for any short and long-range planning projects and studies during this 5-year period. Director LaFever, do you want to add anything?
I think you've heard more than enough for me tonight, so I'll take any questions.
Thanks. Any questions or comments? No? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next, G9, consider appointment to Historic District Commission.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the reappointment of Bill Tesson to the Canton Historic District Commission for a 3-year term effective through February 5th, 2029.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. Bill Tesson's current term on the Historic District Commission expired on February 5th, 2026. Bill is interested in serving another term, and he plays a vital role on the commission as chairperson. He's a great asset to the HDC with his knowledge, resources, and commitment to historic preservation. The interview committee has agreed to appoint Mr. Tesson for another 3-year term that will expire on February 5th, 2029. Let me see if Bill is on. I doubt it, but, oh, come on. Bill? Nope. Okay. Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Kate.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Mr. Tesson for his service and for his interest in serving another term. The Historic District Commission, unlike many of our other committees and commissions, does require some expert knowledge, and we really appreciate his service and his willingness to keep serving.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, Bill is definitely a Canton asset. All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G10. Consider approving a change in the hours of operation for carnival activities at the Liberty Festival.
Good thing our conversation earlier went well. Madam Supervisor, I move to approve a change in the hours of operation for the carnival activities at the Liberty Festival.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. Canton's annual Liberty Festival, a signature event in our community, continues to grow, drawing over 100,000 attendees each year. The festival's main attraction is a carnival, providing rides, midway games, and food concessions for all ages. To continue offering this cherished tradition with an emphasis on family-friendly activities and a more community-centered experience, the Liberty Festival Committee, made up of staff and members of the Public Safety Department, recommends changing the hours of operation. It is proposed to open the carnival area earlier on Thursday and Friday to take advantage of the community's young people being out of school in 2026 and to close at 8 p.m. each night. An earlier close will help to ensure the long-term sustainability of the event for everyone involved. In addition to the carnival hour changes, Canton will join a nationwide celebration by hosting its community fireworks later to celebrate the U.S. 250th anniversary. Staff are working hard to plan this midsummer celebration for the entire community and look forward to taking advantage of this fantastic opportunity. Canton Township remains committed to delivering high-quality events that reflect community values while adapting to evolving needs. Festival goers can still expect a full complement of entertainment, activities, food, and opportunities to connect with friends and neighbors. Additional information will be provided as planning continues and is available at cantonlibertyfest.org. Director LaFever, do you want to add anything else?
No, madam, nothing to add.
Okay. Does our YAC team have any questions? Okay. There was that one question of that young man. Kate had said something earlier about
Fireworks.
fireworks, yes.
We're doing it
Yeah,
today.
most of that is taking advantage of a lot of resources already invested into a current event. Thursday Night Concert Series, for those of you who have not been out there, is they're very popular. We get over 1,000 people every week already, every Thursday night. So a lot of it is being efficient with what we have to offer currently. It's not to say that we'll continue to do it that way. Again, we're going to run this year and we'll evaluate how that goes. And what we'll take that into consideration, and we've heard that tonight. And so as we kind of plan for the future, we'll definitely take that into consideration.
All right, thanks. I'm sorry. I have some hands.
Yeah, I'll just also say that for the neighbors that live near where the fireworks are, like you, John, and me,
You guys are working the festival.
I would also, think about those who might be going to bed earlier on a weeknight as well.
Well, maybe we'll all get lucky and it'll rain and we'll all be back Friday night. Never said that before.
Oh, I don't know if we should wish for that.
No,
Is that the 4th of July week? That's the week, right?
it's the week after.
The week.
Week after, yeah.
Did you have something?
I was just going to say, in order to feel competent in voting for this, I think we should do another 30-minute study session on Liberty Fest.
I was ready to go up again. I have a presentation, more slides.
Okay, go on.
After that, the RBA description, I was,
I know.
that's a joke.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. G11, consider approval of the tentative collective bargaining agreement with the Technical Professional Office Workers Association of Michigan.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the Charter Township of Canton and TPOAM with a term ending December 31, 2028, and authorize the Township Supervisor to sign on behalf of Canton Township.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Brunensky. Canton Township has reached a new agreement with its technical, professional, and office workers workforce. The new agreement raises wages 4% in 1 year of the agreement, 3% in year 2, and 2% in year 3. The new agreement creates a retirement incentive to assist township departments in succession planning, increases the dental and orthodontics coverage benefit, and improves other aspects of the contract while maintaining the benefits in the expiring contract. The TPOAM bargaining unit has already voted to ratify the new agreement with the township. That's great news. Deputy Supervisor, do you have anything to add?
No, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, so the team worked hard and the contract negotiations, and I think everybody came up with a good solution. Any questions or comments from the board? No? All right. Well, congratulations to the team and them voting yes. So all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Congratulations. Item G12, approve resolution to enact a temporary moratorium on the establishment and use of data centers in Canton Township.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve resolution number 2026-11, enacting temporary 12-month moratorium on establishment and use of data processing and computer centers within Canton Township.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by everybody, I think.
Yeah.
The Charter Township of Canton is legitimately invested in ensuring that data centers do not negatively interfere with other land uses or have substantial negative impacts on the environment, public health, safety, and welfare, which include impacts on water supply, water discharge, noise, air quality, utility services, energy usage, the natural environment, and the local and regional economy. For those reasons, a temporary 12-month moratorium on the establishment and use of data processing and computer centers is proposed to allow Canton Township time to study applicable land use regulations and determine if a regulatory ordinance is necessary. Deputy Supervisor, do you want to add anything?
Just that, as we've seen in many other communities, there is a fairly aggressive push in Michigan right now by large technology companies to acquire land and establish data centers in communities. This has definitely become an issue of great concern in many communities where proposed data centers are being developed. So we're recommending that the board adopt this resolution in an effort to give township staff some time to study the issue and hopefully come to a resolution within that 1-year time frame as to how our zoning and land use regulations should or should not be amended to handle this issue.
Okay, I think the Detroit News also did a story. We know that one is being considered just south of our border in Van Buren Township, And we know that there are 12 others in southern Michigan of various forms, whether they're being kind of saying you're going to have one, or companies have approached these communities. So there's a lot of things that need to be studied and understood. Any questions from the board or comments? Kate?
I was just going to propose that someone read the resolution.
Okay, let me see.
Is that my job?
Yes.
Is it, yeah, you just said the number. You have to say the whole thing now.
Intentionally. I do a lot of talking at these meetings. This is our last agenda item, isn't it?
Yes,
All right. You guys want to do a study session on it?
No.
Okay.
we're doing a 12-month study session on it.
That's right. Well played. Whereas the Charter Township of Canton zoning ordinance has data processing centers and computer centers as permitted principal uses in Article 20, Office 1, Office District, Article 21, Light Research, LIR, Light Industrial Research District, Article 22, Light Industrial District, and Article 23, General Industrial District. And it has special land uses in Section 6.08, Site Development Standards for the Corporate Park Overlay District, but has yet to establish, approve, and implement additional standards specific to data centers and similar uses. Whereas it has recently come to the attention of the Board of Trustees, the Charter Township of Canton should study and review whether data centers require additional local regulation within Canton Township, and whether, absent such additional local regulation, data centers may interfere with other land uses and may have substantial impacts on the environment, public health, safety, and welfare. Whereas Charter Township of Canton has a legitimate public purpose in assessing the regulation of the establishment and use of data centers within Canton Township. Whereas the Board of Trustees is desirous of assessing its regulations to implement an appropriate regulatory approach for addressing potential impacts of data centers while ensuring the sustainable and responsible development of data centers within Canton Township, which may include designated areas where data centers may be located within Canton Township. Whereas the Board of Trustees wishes to consider and assess amendments to its current regulations regarding the use of data centers that are consistent with all applicable state and federal laws, including any controlling precedent from the United States Supreme Court. Whereas the time to consider and assess regulation of data centers will take several months and will include public meetings by the Charter Township of Canton Planning Commission and Board of Trustees. Whereas the Charter Township is legitimately invested in ensuring that data centers do not interfere with other land uses or have substantial negative impacts on the environment, public health, safety, and welfare, which include impacts on water supply, water discharge, noise, air quality, utility services, energy usage, the natural environment, and the local and regional economy. Whereas it is a routine and an appropriate method to enact a reasonable and temporary moratorium to consider enactment of any ordinance amendment. And whereas the Board of Trustees finds that it is necessary and reasonable to establish a temporary moratorium on the establishment and use of data centers within Canton Township for 12 months, or until the Board of Trustees has enacted a regulatory ordinance setting forth the regulations for the establishment and use of data centers within Canton Township. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton, Michigan, that the Charter Township of Canton hereby temporarily enacts a prohibition on the establishment and use of data centers, data processing centers, computer centers, and similar uses, including without limitation, approval of such use within Canton Township pending further study and enactment of township regulation addressing the same. This moratorium shall terminate and be of no further effect 12 months from the effective date of this moratorium unless the Board of Trustees adopts a resolution extending the moratorium or terminating the moratorium. During this moratorium period, the Charter Township of Canton shall not accept, review, or approve any application for a zoning compliance, special land use, or site plan for the purpose of establishing a data center, data processing center, computer center, or similar use. The Charter Township of Canton Planning Commission, in consultation with Municipal Services Department staff and Township Legal Counsel, is directed to review the current zoning ordinance, study land use regulations for data centers, data processing centers, computer centers, and similar uses, and propose amendments that address development standards for these uses that, at a minimum, address impacts on water supply, water discharge, noise, air quality, utility services, energy usage, the natural environment, and the local and regional economy. An appeal of this moratorium may be granted upon the request of an applicant aggrieved by the moratorium if the Board of Trustees finds that an exception to this moratorium would not impact the health, safety, and welfare of Canton Township and is deemed reasonable by the Board of Trustees in exercising its legislative authority over land use regulation to remain consistent with the Charter Township of Canton zoning ordinance. This moratorium does not apply to the continued operation of existing data centers, data processing centers, computer centers, and similar uses previously approved by Canton Township, provided that the use continues to operate in accordance with its original approval, complies with all ordinances of Canton Township, and does not expand. And this moratorium shall take effect immediately. Should I read it again?
No?
Okay.
Do I have,
Can we write a longer one next time?
do we need support? Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. Any discussion? Tanya?
Yeah, I just have a comment. I'm sure all of us have comments, and since we are opposing data centers, and so there is a huge push by a lot of corporations saying that there is going to be a huge demand for AI and we need all these data centers, and nobody knows what the demand for AI is going to be in the future, and these data centers are being built preemptively, and we all know how much of the resources that these data centers are going to be needing in terms of water and electricity. And even if it's in a neighboring community, it will create some resource constraints on us. So I just wanted to say that we are going to have this moratorium, but we also probably need to be working with other communities, because there are a lot of, we border Washtenaw County, and they are having a lot of communities there have had these plans for data centers, or our plans have been to their in those communities. So I think we should also, just not our community, probably we should be proactively working to not have these in Southeast Michigan.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. All right, that's the end of our general, let me see, and then we have additional public comments. Any additional public comments in the room? Okay, want to go ahead?
I also have a point of clarification. Initially, that motion was seconded by Trustee Ganguly, but then we did a second.
I think it's because you read the resolution, and
Yeah.
I think we needed to.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, thanks.
Let's- Can I get one?
We can share.
I've seen it.
It's a lot of water.
I gave you 3 pictures there. This is a situation in my backyard. Ann is well aware of what's going on, and it's been 40 years since I've moved into this house, and I have never, ever gotten any help from Wayne County or Canton Township. And these houses should have never been built there. It's a known floodplain. And the front page there shows August 25th, 2023, when we had 250 feet of water, 12 feet deep in my yard, and it was within 6 feet of my house. That's when my foundation was cracked. And they want $18,000 to fix it. I haven't still haven't had it fixed yet, but still working on it. Second page is the green picture there is my yard 5 years ago. The lower portion is the same yard last year, And it shows what has happened to my yard. It's just, there's nothing left of it. It's just getting ripped apart. And I've lost more property this year, and we haven't had any rain to speak of. Stink is terrible. It smells like a sewer. Because that's what it is. It's a sewer. And the third picture is just another incident where we got tons and tons and tons of water. And I'm just asking the board for some help to vote to help Wayne County get some money together or whatever we have to do, because it is destroying my property. I'm paying taxes on this flood plain, and it's not fair. We drained 6,000 houses and businesses into my backyard, and that's not fair. And I don't know what to do about it anymore. I can't afford to move. Nobody can afford a new house anymore. So I'm just asking for some help, for the board to vote to help Wayne County, because they can't seem to do it on their own. Plan. So that's all I'm asking. And I was asked to come tonight by Emma. I don't remember her last name.
Emma Kramer.
Neighborhood coordinator or something?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep those pictures.
Thanks. Any other comments in the room? George, Mr. Miller?
Miller. I want to address this on Eagle. They have evidently, on the hazardous waste and nuclear dump,
Could you speak up, George? I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
it's right here.
Gotcha.
What do you want me to do?
Sound great?
I'd like to know, we're appealing this evidently. I'd like to know how it's coming. Evidently, they have the license to go ahead on this. In the past, I've been with Eagle. This gentleman's talking and some of the other people here. There, years ago, before Jim Poole was here, 30, 40 years ago, when these dumps started out here in Canton, there was an environmental attorney in Ann Arbor. You guys, this township paid for it, and there's no height on controlling, or no law, federal or state law at that time, controlling the height of a dump. It has to be 10 foot from the water table. That's the federal rules. So if there's no federal or state law, you should fight it with the height on ordinance. That would be my suggestion on the Court of Appeals. Environmental attorney looked into this 40 years ago. If they would have followed through, these dumps wouldn't be 200 feet high in Canton. Next issue, the same with this. My questions over there to them, the EPA, I'd like to know how they're going to purify this in their leachate system. And what they're going to do with that, because on these dumps, it works basically from, they have a leachate system, they pump it over here to Hagerty in Michigan, and then it goes over to Ipsy Sewer Plant to be purified more. So I want to know how they're going to purify it enough so we can drink it. And it goes back into the water system. They've never addressed that issue. And many issues they have over there on violations, after the many violations, and then they still continue to give them a permit. Example, there was a 25-acre dump over here at Hannon and Michigan Avenue years ago, 1980. Recently, Waste Management raised it 25 foot above the road. That dump was closed. They weren't supposed to do that. It's leaking, or they shouldn't have done it, just as plain as day. The whole truck area where Ford is over there, and they parked their vehicles, and the truck depot there for the trucking company was flooded. 3 vacuum trucks couldn't keep up. They raised it 25 foot. Where is the drain-off pond to control some of that? You know what I was told by Eagle? It's insignificant. They're one of your worst enemies in the Corps of Engineers. I've asked many times over here, it's been flooding out here, just like this gentleman. Where is the thing, report on, what should I say, on Corps of Engineers on this flooding issue in Canton? It's been coming for 2 years, waiting. Over here at Sheldon and Palmer Road, guess what? It floods all the time. We've been addressing that for 15 years.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anyone else in the room? No? Okay, anyone online? Public comment? Nope, okay. Public comment is over, and then now we go to administrative comments. Does our YAC team have any other comments or questions? No? Patrick, anything? John, anything?
Got our first winter farmers market coming up this Sunday at the Village Arts Factory, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. First of 3, so head on out to the farmers market. And there's a full list of our vendors on the farmers market website. So if you're got a favorite, check out the list and hit them up this weekend.
All right, thank you. Director Victor?
Nice.
Nothing? Mr. Joe, Interim Chief, Biley?
Just direct your attention to our website for our anniversary. We've had a lot of videos and just good photos as we dig through the archives of 50 years of police, and so there's some good stuff on there. That's all I have.
Thank you. Director Stockline?
Just a quick update, Station 4, we've got some progress finally, and we got the permit back from Eagle, and we posted for 15 days of public comment, which ended today. So now we have 15 more days with HUD, and once we get through that process, then we will be able to collect on the grant, the 1.8 million side of it from the feds, and hopefully break some ground here by the end of March. we got to clear the land before the end of March, so we're kind of in a rush.
Very good. Thank
Things are moving along finally.
Yes, very good. Director Norwood?
Only thing I'd like to mention is you'll see an RBA the next meeting about a water main break that happened at Sheldon and Michigan Avenue.
Yeah.
Pretty significant, 16-inch line, pre-stressed concrete, which is something that we don't run into much, but it was pretty significant. We had to replace a lot of pipe there, so you'll be hearing from at the next meeting.
Thank you. Deputy Supervisor, anything? Amara?
Just that Ramadan starts next week. We don't know exactly what date, but inshallah it'll be on the 17th or 18th, based on the lunar sighting. If you have questions about what Ramadan is, or how hangry we get, or how spiritual we get during the holy month, please feel free to come talk to me. You can also email me with questions. More than happy to have conversations and chat about that. But I'm very much looking forward to some inward reflection and to being closer with community. Yeah.
Thank you. Kate?
So I hope everyone enjoyed the warmer temperatures today. I believe that the groundhog predicted 6 more weeks of winter, so I fear that today may have been our only day of this, but hopefully everyone got to enjoy it. I know I did. And I believe the Lunar New Year is next week also, so happy Lunar New Year to everyone who celebrates.
Thanks, Diane.
Sure. Well, February is Health Heart Awareness Month, and I'm sure a lot of people saw Red on Friday, just a women's awareness on health disease. So the first Friday of every February, we encourage people to wear red for that awareness. Another reminder is taxes are due normally on the 14th, but because that's on a Saturday, we push it to the first business day. And Monday, being President's Day, we're off, so it'll be on Tuesday, the 17th. And also a quick reminder on postmarks. People think just because they put their bill in their mail in the post box, it's going to get stamped that day, and that's not necessarily true. So make sure you either mail it out well in advance, or we have a drop box, we have a drive-up drop box, or we're open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30.
Thank you. Tanya?
I don't have anything.
Thanks. Summer?
It's Black History Month, and it's almost Valentine's Day.
Very good. It is, next week. Michael?
Just wanted to remind everybody or address, just give a couple of pointers. If you would have gotten, if you're a registered voter, a new voter information card in the mail last week, notifying you that we've made some modifications, which I'm fond of doing, to the precincts and the voting locations. So the board did approve that last year. We made the change at the state level. And so where you vote this year, if you choose to vote on Election Day, very well may be different than where you voted in the past. We will obviously have our 9 days of early voting for both the August and the May, almost said May. Don't want to put that out there. The August and November elections. And then if you are on the automatic absentee ballot list, you will still get a ballot mailed to you. You do not have to vote on Election Day at the new location. You can if you want to. We get a lot of calls about those cards. So yeah, there's a big impact, but we'll be doing some more education between now and August to help voters get to where they need to get to with regard to the election system. In my role as vice president of the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks, I've been doing a lot of advocacy in Lansing. The governor is going to be releasing her budget, her administrative budget tomorrow. We have been advocating very hard to get funding for new voting equipment rollout for the entire state of Michigan. Got some word from the governor's team that we will be happy when they announce tomorrow the administrative budget. What that means nationally is about a $91 million, or statewide, about a $91 million expense. I don't know how much will go into the budget this year, but what it will do is it'll save Canton taxpayers about $250,000. So Wendy is not here, but she would be very happy if it survives the legislative process. If you've watched the last couple of years, believe it or not, the legislative process is, yeah, I mean, it's actually pretty disgusting. So we'll see how that plays out, but we got it in the budget proposal, so that's exciting. And then there's some other things we're kind of working on, and which would help for election administration. So I will be up in Lansing on Thursday testifying to the Senate Elections Committee. So busy working on that stuff, and I will be taking over as president of the association in June. So again, a lot of my focus is statewide right now, but still doing a lot of work here in Canton Township, a lot of work in the office to deliver the 2 elections this year.
Great, thank you. Congratulations. Couple of things. So remember our drain meeting the other day when we had it? So Mr. Cieslak, unfortunately, he left. So we're waiting for the county still to give the estimate on his property before we approach him and, talk about what that cost is. Also, we had, Mr. Miller did talk about the expansion. We've had our trial start last week for the radioactive waste that we were able to turn away in August, radioactive waste from coming to Michigan, and we're trying to stop it from coming to Michigan, period. And so that trial was last week where we had our defendants get up there and talk, I'm sorry, our experts, and then this week was Wayne Disposal, had their experts get up and speak. And that's over, this trial will be over next Wednesday, and then the judge will rule whether or not we can keep radioactive waste out. At the same time, we're pursuing legislation to stop radioactive waste from coming into Michigan with Darren Camilleri and Reggie Miller's bills. So that's, keep our fingers crossed there, but it's been going real well. And the Army Corps of Engineer will be presenting on March 3rd their study on flooding in Canton. So that's on March 3rd, that is scheduled. With SEMCOG, I went to DC last weekend. We talked about transportation, water infrastructure. We met with the congressman and 2 of our senators to make sure that we pass those bills in Michigan, that they're in the bills that the president signs. We also talked about our antenna project. So I believe we're going to be getting the funding for that. Not all the funding we asked for, but the funding to help us put antennas in the PSAP so that when our public safety goes in with their 800 megahertz radios, they'll still be able to communicate versus it becoming a dead zone. So that's good news. That's very good news. And the Conference of Western Wayne will be here in Canton on Friday at the Village Theater at 9:30 in the morning. So if you want to, I encourage everybody, invite the public to come listen to the 18 communities. And America 250 poster contest is on. So if you want to, have something for our Liberty Fest and talk about what it's like to live in Canton, why it's important to live in Canton, and what we want to see for our future and our pride. So that's something that's due in mid-April. And then in the meantime, happy Ramadan and happy Black History Month and happy Valentine's Day. A lot to celebrate this week. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made by Clerk Seegers, supported by Treasurer Slavens. All in favor say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night.